But without further ado, he is up super early for us right now. We want to get him up here. I think the audio and video finally shook itself out. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us, he's the man who knows everything about SSA, RLCS caster, commentator, analyst. He's who you want to talk to. And we have with us Mr. GreyBeard, everybody. Welcome, kind sir.
Well, thank you very much. It's fabulous to be here, and I'm not so much up early in the morning as I am. I didn't go to bed. I didn't trust myself to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I have literally been playing Rocket League for 6 hours. So yeah, I'm wired and good to go.
Wow,
for us.
That's awesome. I'm impressed by that because I probably would have. Oh my God, Bucket, you're like huge on the screen. Right
Bucket
now.
is struggling.
What happened?
That when you had closed out, it messed up the whole other side. So I'm fixing it right now. So
it wasn't me.
I'm gonna get you.
Well, I can still talk to GreyBeard.
Yes, you can.
I mean, look, I love how he's front and center. He's got an amazing background, and everything just looks so polished. I went back and watched some of the most recent stream. It was kind of hard. I found a bunch of clips. I couldn't find the full VOD, unfortunately. Maybe it's on YouTube or somewhere else. You'll have to drop it.
From the weekend?
It was about 10 days ago where you guys had your
the first
event,
regional.
Right? Yeah,
yeah, exactly. That's right.
So I'm excited to hear more about all that. But go ahead, just introduce yourself to us and give us a little bit about how you got into Rocket League.
All right, so yeah, GreyBeard is the I called myself that for the obvious reason, and so like these things, we were chatting off air, and you were telling me about your, how things snowballed into the podcast and the communities you build, and these things always evolve. But very simply, I bought Rocket League a month after its public release back in 2015, and I was just in a period where I was like really bored with watching, in my free time, series and movies were getting kind of tedious, so I was looking for something to entertain myself. And my son, who was a gamer back then, I said, well, let me try the gaming thing. I haven't gamed in decades, so I spent a little bit of money on a really cheap PC. And I played a bunch of games, the story games, the Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, Hitman, and I had fun, but they were kind of meh. And then I discovered Rocket League, and it was, I think like many people, it was stupidly addictive. And, and there I was, and I was playing a lot for the next 4 years. But very quietly on my own. I didn't get involved in any communities. I just literally played Rocket League by myself and met a couple of people online. But then after 4 years, I reached a point where I thought, with all the time I'm spending in this game, I've got to make it somehow productive or leave it behind and go and be a grown-up somewhere. And so I thought, okay, well, let me see if I can be a content creator. So the initial plan 3 years ago was to have a YouTube series of trying to be the oldest grand champion in the world, which at the time, if I had made it, I would have been. But since then, a lot of older people much older than me have made it, and I still haven't made it. But so it evolved from there and into casting, which I didn't even know was a thing. I wasn't even aware of competitive Rocket League. And someone suggested I cast, so I started casting, and I was technically not very clued up on the game. I didn't understand it technically, but what I lacked in actual knowledge of the game, I made up in enthusiasm. And then over time, it became a thing. And then I started casting a bunch of leagues in Europe and other areas around the world, which was a lot of fun. But the concern was always Rocket League in South Africa, where I am from, sub-Saharan Africa, which was dying. It has a tiny player base, and there was really nothing to play for. There was only really one big competition for a little bit of money, and so you had all these guys grinding, and the people at the top of the game had nothing further really to play for. And we were in huge trouble just over a year ago. And then out of the blue, we get included into RLCS. Suddenly there's this tournament with a prize pool. There's a reason to play. We have a pathway to Worlds, and it just reinvigorated the community. It's still very small. It's now growing, at least probably for the first time in many years. But comparatively speaking, it's tiny. And so my role has become not so much as a caster, although I still do that every chance I can get, but to be an evangelist for the region and to help grow the game in this area, and help in whatever way I can to, over the next few years, get our level of play to the point where we can compete on an equal footing with the rest of the world. So that's why I'm here. I'm trying to go wherever I can to spread the gospel of Sub-Saharan African Rocket League.
I love that. And that's exactly what we're doing too. We're trying to reach out to different communities and find out what's going on. And we mentioned it here just earlier in the podcast that we're very biased to NA because it's the thing that we follow. So you mentioned the early days when you were playing. I mean, what servers were even available for you? And then you moved over to Europe simply because there wasn't player base, and now it's kind of opening up over the past year. Talk about that little bit of your journey.
All right. Well, in 2015, when the game launched, there were no local servers, so it was playing in Europe. But you know what? Ignorance is bliss, as they say. And I had no idea that I was even at a disadvantage with ping. It didn't concern me. And certainly at the level of play I was, ping wasn't a problem, or it wasn't the thing that was making me play badly. We got local servers, I think, in 2017. We got servers in South Africa, which made a huge difference. But because of the small player base, you could play locally and find games quite easily up until probably around Platinum. After that, you were struggling to find local games. You were waiting forever. So anybody who progressed beyond Platinum, Diamond into Champ and higher were playing on European servers. So we're playing at anything from 160 to 220 ping, depending on your individual server connection and whatever servers you connect to. So we've always had that disadvantage. But it has to be said, over the last year, since our inclusion in RLCS, the player base has grown, and you can get fairly reliable games up to sort of high champ 2-ish, champ 3, and then you start to wait a bit. So it is growing, but we've got a ways to go.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like MENA and how they it seems like a lot of their top tier players come over and play on EU servers as well. So we're exactly, and the advantage they have is I think they're getting around 80 ping, which if we could play in Europe on 80 ping, it would be like a holiday camp for us. It would be fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it is, and it continues to be a problem now, because at least the MENA guys could hone their skills with European players. For us, once you're sort of high grand champ, the ping really is an issue, and then it starts to become quite tilting because players don't know. You just don't know. It's like, am I playing badly, or is it the ping? Because it's an easy copium to say, well, if I had better ping, it would be fine. But you don't know. So do I need to be better, or is it genuinely the ping? So it becomes very difficult, and even for scrimming. So it's an issue we're going to have to somehow overcome in over time. How we do that, I don't know. For a start, we just need a massive player base, because then we can. Like North America and Europe, they became good at Rocket League by a lot of people playing one another. Either that or Elon Musk's global satellite thing. Starlink?
Starlink, apparently it you can play anywhere in the world at around sort of 60 to 80 ping. I don't know if that's a complete pipe dream. It probably is, but I remain hopeful.
Well, I have seen that actually in the works, and right now it does live up to the hype when it comes to the latency and the ping. So there is hope. But we will see how that keeps going for him. So coming from SSA,
Yes.
like, so I know like Orlando Pirates, they got to go to Fort Worth. Have you talked to them? How did they feel about their experience there?
So, listen. I mean, they had the time of their lives there. I mean, I think for probably so of the 6 players that went, I'm pretty sure only 2 of them have even ever left the country. So, to go to America and be in Texas and just be in and amongst all of those people, I think was mind blowing for them. I mean, it's such a growing experience. So it was fantastic. And our best team is Orlando Pirates, although that is subject to change. We'll talk about that in a moment because the roster chaos has been huge here. And they took one game off Game and Gladiators, an APAC team, but otherwise kind of lost, and they were very frustrated by that. Just their inability to compete, but the feeling that they could have done better. So I know they're having a focus this year on how do they get to the boot camps, get out to Europe or the States or whatever and scrim earlier, but they are so determined to at next Worlds, our 2 wildcard teams, for at least one of them to get out of wildcard into the main event.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the direction I was hoping to take this, Hoosier, because I'm very interested in what you said about how now that you have servers dedicated and maybe the player base is getting bigger, do you believe you're going to have a lot of homegrown players, or maybe there's going to be transfers like you were talking about that come out of that scene?
Well, we do have. Look, I mean, there are a small handful of players that have the potential to be globally competitive. But there are, I mean, I know there's a Portuguese team who are looking at coming to live in South Africa and compete here from Split 2. They're obviously in EU and maybe struggling either on the bubble or in and around, but can't get into RLCS that way. And it's interesting because there are varying views in the community about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. The top teams are a little frustrated because it's kind of like, they think they can come here and farm RLCS success, and it's a little insulting and frustrating. But it is a reality. People are going to do that. If we've seen moves to APAC, and why not if you can have a chance at glory here? And I do think it overall is going to have the effect of pushing the local scene. But so far, that's only one team. And I think the reason we haven't seen more is because we don't have major spots. If we were guaranteed one major spot, I think we might see 2 or 3 other teams coming out here going, okay, this is a way into LAN and greater success that way. But listen, living in Africa is not for sissies. It's hard, we're far from the world, far from the epicenter of things. We have ongoing electricity issues. We have, the ping issues when you're trying to scrim. So there's a lot of reasons not to. So I wish them a lot of luck coming out here to compete.
Yeah, that's exciting because that's what my mind goes to, thinking of growing the region. Like, at what point does a team try and kind of like what they do in soccer, like for soccer here in the States, they always go grab like a Messi or somebody who's towards the end of their career and like, hey, let's bring them here and see what can happen. So I almost see that happening with the Rocket League scene as well.
Well, I mean, we're seeing it already, and I do think as the scene here grows, because look, I think we're probably 2, 3, 4 years out from being seriously, like being a South America or a MENA that actually, now they're producing teams that scare other teams around the world. And we're quite a ways from that. I mean, if we think about OCE's ahead of us, but I mean, even they are not yet at a point of being sort of world beaters, but a hell of a lot closer to us. So we've got runway. There's time, and a lot will happen over that time as as we start to grow, at some point we will get major spots, and then I think you will see that sort of cross continent sort of migration toward either where they believe they will have better success, or just come and live in South Africa. It's a wonderful place to live if you're happy to deal with the problems. If we think about apparently Jack, who moved over, I think he just loved North America. I think there's more opportunities for him. He liked the culture, the vibe, and felt like that was the place for him. I mean, he didn't move to North America because he thought he could, he was more likely to be a regional champion in North America than in Europe.
I think it was also money driven too, because like we've heard them talk on their streams that North American players make more than even just EU players. So it does seem to be money driven as well. And even like we have Papa Rizzo in our chat. He's chimed in a couple of times and kind of confirmed that for us, that that's also what's driving some of the players to move over.
Yeah, that's a solid point. I didn't even think about that, but absolutely. I mean, if you think about, Europe, we have North America and Europe. I mean, Europe's a collection of what, like 25 countries or 30 countries or whatever it is.
Right.
North America is 3. And it's just so big, and the American approach to there just seems to be more money or a maturity in esports. And I don't know, I do think Europe is behind in how you think about building a team. And then sub-Saharan Africa, and in truth, when we talk about sub-Saharan Africa, we're really talking about South Africa, with a couple of players from other parts of the region. And that's part of what we have to do. We have to get other countries involved. But we have a very immature esports scene here, where you have orgs signing up rosters, but they're doing it with a view to, like, okay, we're going to make money out of the winnings, and no org anywhere like makes their millions from the prize pool. You got to be doing other things. This is it's a pathway to greater things, and so the grander vision is not quite there yet. So we've got a lot of growing up to do. But you know what? We're part of the global scene, and whether there's whether the rest of the world is happy about that or not, or thinks we deserve a slot, we're there, and we're going to do the best we can with it.
Totally. You guys are in the world, might as well be participating in these things. But exactly right. Like, who cares what other people think? And that's what it seems like the approach is here that you guys are taking too. And I love that with the broadcast and stuff. Speak about the team that you've worked with, or how you became part of the growing culture there.
I think it was by reason of the fact that it was very small, and I took my sort of content creation and then the casting quite seriously. And look, I'm in a very fortunate position. I've raised my child. He's out of the house. He's married. The work I do. It's wonderful. I tell you something. It's a wonderful time when it comes and it happens. So, and I feel like I'm living out my teenage years in my 50s, with the difference that I actually have money to do things. So I'm in a very fortunate position that I can. This has become a hobby. It's an expensive hobby right now in terms of what I do, and I love this game so much, and I see its potential for the kids in the region that are trying to make something of it. So I've, not necessarily by design, but kind of fell into the role of just doing what I can for the region. So kind of championing to get a high quality broadcast, because we don't have an official RLCS broadcast. We have to run it as a community stream, which is a bit of a headache from a funding point of view. And then kids who are wonderful at Rocket League are not necessarily great at life, and you find them getting in.
That out.
So you see them getting, and they've got these gigantic egos, and they start getting involved in the weirdest political stupid stuff. So it's like, guys, that's So it's almost like I guess being a dad in a way, or just helping where I can to kind of focus the attention of these guys
A
to
role model for sure.
yeah, well, yeah, but then at the same time, one of our top teams, um, uh, they've got this player who's a mechanical prodigy. He has such amazing. He's a guy that could get picked up by an EU or a North American team and become an international superstar. But his parents just have no idea. I mean, they think.
Oh,
They're the traditional parents who think that their children are melting their brain with video games, and so that's the other part of what I want to do is have deliver a message to parents that this is. I mean, just look at the community you guys are building. I have seen, my son from his gaming days. He doesn't game so much anymore, but he made lifelong friends with people all over the world, playing gaming, and it's a place to network, to build friendships, to learn about. There is so much opportunity and potential there. So I also want to try and alleviate the tension and anxiety and fears that parents might have about their kids getting involved, so that they understand how it works and the opportunities that might exist for their kids. Like this one kid, I mean, his parents need to come on board. I mean, this guy could be, and the careers are short. So okay, delay the studies for a few years. Let this kid get out there and go and make a few $100,000 and set up his life. And then he can get back to, being a serious grown-up later.
Oh, completely agree. We had a real good talk with Tor Dad and got into that conversation of how did he approach, like, just being a parent of a kid that's going through these motions. And it was very refreshing to hear how he was very open-minded to it and, like, help him grow. And I mean, to be where he's at now is huge. And we've kind of talked to Papa Rizzo about that. And I almost wonder if it's worth like showing his parents the video from RLCS where all the parents were talking about their kids and watching them do what they do. If that's a thing, I'm sure Papa Rizzo or somebody, we'd be willing to try and get a contact to them if they have questions about being a parent of a Rocket League kid.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Look, I do think they're slowly coming on board, because when you see the day you're watching a stream and you see your son playing Rocket League, and there's 80,000 people watching on a stream, that's a pretty powerful message right there. You go, oh, okay. This is not just a bunch of teenagers in a basement somewhere. This is a proper activity. And listen, and the money they're earning. I mean, the prize for a regional here is $20,000. So which means first place gets you $6,000, which compared to North American EU is nothing. But to a South African kid, and they're splitting $6,000 between them, that is proper money for someone here. So suddenly they're earning their money. It does start to change. But where you want to change it is all of there's 14-year-olds who are they want to go pro, and they're starting to grind Rocket League and having. And part of the obstacles they deal with is the constant negotiation with parents to like, I need to be grinding 3 or 4 hours a day if I want to get to where I want to be and break. So that's where we got to reach, is at the bottom where they aren't earning anything yet.
Right.
Yeah, traditional ways of a lot of things are changing, and us as parents are seeing that, but we've also grown up in this technological world at some point. So it's been really, really fun to see that. But that's the way things get done, is breakthroughs, is disruptors, is things like that. And that's what I feel. Even this game, from the very basic level of Rocket League, it changes throughout time, and that's where RLCS is now too. Do you see your region bringing any new type of gameplay? What kind of gameplay would you say that they have? More like an NA, an EU? Is there somewhere in between there?
I think it's probably going to be very EU influenced, just because the amount of time we spend on the EU servers playing EU players. But it has also been it's probably changing now as the player base grows and there's less. Over time, there'll be less need to play in Europe, but playing with high ping influences how you play. You can't really defend on high ping. So it becomes, you've got to be on the ball sort of constantly. So there's a bit of ball chase there. It has to be aggressive by nature, just because you can't sit in your net and hope to defend a ball being clattered at you at 100 kilometers an hour. So that influenced certainly the earlier people. But the ones who've been grinding the game for 3 or 4 or 5 years. But I do think that will change, and in truth, I don't know where it's going to go and what kind of style it's going to be. But for now, as an overall thing, the biggest issue is being able to play at pace. The biggest differentiator for our teams when they go there is just the sheer pace at which the rest of the world is playing. So that's becoming a focus, is like how do you pick up, how do we just play probably 15 to 20% faster than we are right now.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part, right? Is when they do get, just like the Pirates had experienced when they came to Worlds, when they do get up against the world's best, how are they going to play up against them? So certainly there's going to be some growing pains and all that, but just like you're saying, there's always, where there's a will, there's a way. And I feel like this region has willed itself into the conversation.
We have, and we certainly have. I mean, talking about the esports scene here, just to give you an idea of the relative size of it, by our inclusion in RLCS, the prize pool over a year, including Worlds, works out to about $200,000. And overnight, with that announcement, it is the highest paid esport in the region. There is no other title where players can make this kind of money. So yet it is probably the most unknown esport in the region. So it's like our best kept secret right now. So damn it, Bucket, you were asking a question and this was relevant to it, but now I forgot what the hell you asked.
No worries. That's just kind of the thing, is you guys have kind of brought yourselves into the scene, and now it's growing so much from your perspective, from the bottom up, and you're on that bottom floor right now.
Very much so. And it is, I just can't believe how, it's hard for me to describe how, Rocket League was on life support in this country. I mean, there was just nothing to play for. You play up until Grand Champ, and then what? There was just nothing. And we were losing. Our top player from Orlando Pirates, who did the best at Worlds, they won 6 out of the 9 regionals. The player leading that team was in the 2 months leading up to the announcement that we were going to be in RLCS, he was making plans to move to England to play pool, because he's really good at pool as well. And so we were going to lose him to the game completely. And now he's got a chance. And there's so many things, I want our local players to become superstars. We've got lots to solve in terms of content creation. Like these top players, very good at Rocket League, abysmal at their own PR, at content creation, at building a fan base for themselves. And that's really important, because that attracts sponsors. When you have a growing fan base, that gets other people interested. So there's so many things to solve, but we've got the main thing, which is a pathway. And now that we've got a pathway, we can chip at it and make that pathway into a highway, and bigger and bigger as it goes. So yeah, it's going to be a struggle for us for the next few years, but we're part of it, and that's the key thing. And again, my mission is to spread the gospel. We get eyes from around the world coming to look at the game, the region, supporting the region. It can only be good for the rest of the world to know who we are and what we're about.
Oh wow! Looks like we have Deisel's dad in chat. Welcome, sir.
What is he doing up so late?
Uh,
Etienne, why are you up so late?
That is awesome. Welcome. I mean, it's awesome to see the parents have that support like that, and it's fantastic. I guess so. If I'm thinking like for NA, you know, for the last 10 years or many years, you know, Twitch, streaming, YouTube, it's always been a thing in American culture. Is it the same in South America, or is that something that's still growing there?
Yeah, yes and no. Our issue has always been just this. Look, one of the big problems we've got to deal with, and yes, Sonics could help us by giving us an official stream. They could give us drops, which would help get eyes on our stream. But our biggest, you know, the first regional, the day of the final, we peaked at like 160 viewers. Granted, we had a bunch of views of the VOD afterward or whatever, but it is really, really small. So so there are very few people that have managed to actually build a large audience around what they do. So so I think again, if we talk about America and just being so much bigger, there are just by the fact that there are so many people, you are going to have even if it's a small percentage of the population watching Twitch, it's going to be a lot of people. Whereas here, yes, it is, but it's tiny. We got to branch out a bit more,
Right.
and we're also on the ground floor there with the content creation, building. You know, a lot of the guys stream, but they don't. Because there isn't an easy pathway for it to be a return on the investment in streaming, not a lot of people do it consistently or very well.
I can believe that. Yeah, that's super hard. And I think it's more mind-boggling at this point that Psyonix doesn't just, like, I don't know, let you guys go live with that region's tournaments on the main channel. It's not like anything else Rocket League's going on at that time. So
you see, there's our other disadvantage. Our regionals run at exactly the same time as Europe, so we have no hope there. So that's another one of our challenges. So look, I have an evolving view. You know, we are part of RLCS, but we're not regarded as like a full member, if that makes sense. We're sort of like I don't know what the right terminology is. We're kind of in, but not with the same privileges as everybody.
You're the redheaded stepchild.
Affiliates, there you go.
You're the affiliates of the league itself. That's a really good point.
And look, the players were understandably upset that we didn't get any major spots, like a single major spot this season. And myself as a content creator, as someone who wants to highlight the region, I was very frustrated that we didn't have an official stream. But we got to deal with our numbers, and growing the game is something we can do ourselves within the region. So we have to do the best we can with that and continue to force the conversation. You know, our goal is to actually get to the point where Sonics can't ignore us anymore. They can't continue to say, okay, you can't have full access.
Right.
And that will come, but we have to force the issue. So yes, I'm on board with being irritated with Sonics and not getting these things. But I can also understand it. We're a tiny little region out in the, you know, arse end of the world. So and we have to show that we're worth supporting. So I have an evolving view on that. I can see both sides of the equation.
So, that's such a great point, though. Go ahead, Hoosier.
No, so I was gonna say, so your guys' region, you guys are the only region that doesn't have a major spot.
Yes, we don't have a major spot, and the only region that doesn't have an official stream.
Wow.
Interesting. But I like the attitude, though, right? Like,
yeah, it's perfect.
It's not going to be given to us. Then we're going to make sure that you can't ignore us. We're not going to sit here in the corner and cry and hope that we get it someday. We're going to come through. Do you think that's going to be teams forcing their way in? Is it going to be the whole region saying, here we are, we're here to play? What are the teams to watch out for? What's going on in the region right now?
All right, fine. Well, let's talk about. So you spoke about Orlando Pirates. So the two teams that made wildcard last season were Orlando Pirates and Bravado Gaming. Orlando Pirates have been the top Rocket League team in the region for probably 4 years, 5 years, a long time, and they just consistently stomp everybody. But then the roster left Orlando Pirates. They left the org, and then Bravado, the second place team in the region, the org itself left Rocket League. So what Orlando Pirates did was then they picked up the Bravado roster. So Orlando Pirates, which was the top team here, have now picked up the second place roster and the top roster. And Etienne Dazel, who's in chat, it's his son that plays for formerly Orlando Pirates and now currently orgless. So they don't have an org. They're actually looking for. They've been in negotiations with a couple of European orgs. And I think even one American org who was very interested in picking them up. So that's what they want, is because a European, but preferably an American org, is going to come with that sort of more long view of, we're not just trying to make a percentage of the winnings of the players. We want to build something amazing over time and get long-term value for ourselves as an org. So they're holding out for that. But those and coming out of our first regional, it was very clear that those two rosters remain. We're pretty much a two-team region right now, and there's still a bit of daylight between place 1 and place 2.
I mean, I don't want them to get an org because I love the team name. May contain nuts. You don't need to change that.
They should change it to definitely contains nuts.
It's a nightmare to cast them. That's all I'm going to say. An entire weekend of finally we settled on MCN, which is boring, but yeah, no, they're a casting nightmare.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. That's what she said.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Well, it sounds like the region is, I mean, it's interesting to see that because a lot of people who aren't paying attention, right? They're going to look at this and just go, oh, well, Orlando Pirates are not doing what they did. But when you're really looking at it, it's like, well, no, it's still kind of the same rosters in 1 and 2, just different team names.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you guys had a lot of roster moves, just like in A&E you did as well.
It was complete chaos. Not a single roster survived the off season. And look, that's also something we've had to get used to. The emphasis on teams up until last season, nobody really cared. You were sort of on this team. It was a hobby more than anything else. But now it's actually serious business. And look, the announcement that we were going to be included in RLCS came on the 15th of September last year. The first regional was the 23rd of October. So that was 5 weeks, five and a half or 6 weeks from. We have no hope of playing any competitive Rocket League at an international level to, hey, you're playing in the RLCS, get ready, you got 6 weeks. It was absolute chaos, the scramble to put together rosters and try and figure out something. And then your rosters are locked, and then you find out, oh, okay, we don't like these teams. So as soon as windows opened, there were changes. So, we're still learning the process of sort of competitive esport and how to build a team and one that lasts and put one together. So yes, in the off season, not a single roster survived. Only the top 2 teams retained more than one player. But even with them, there were shifts. So and there were of course new players in the scene. A couple of them retired. So it's pretty much brand new teams from the top to the bottom. And what is great to see is that while the top 2 teams have quite a bit of distance between themselves and places 3rd onwards, the places 3 to sort of 7 or 8 is incredibly competitive. And that's where we're seeing the growth is it's not just the top 2 teams and then maybe 2 or 3 others. There's now a lot of very good teams all competing, and there's a lot of uncertainty just by sheer number. So it has grown. While we've still got a long way to go in terms of our skills ceiling, It's absolutely improved. The level of Rocket League is very, very different from what it was a year ago. So all the signs are positive while we still cope with the obstacles we have.
Yeah, you talk about roster moves and how, like, even for you all, it's everybody's learning how to put a team together. I think that's Rocket League as a whole, because you even saw NA and EU have their crazy roster mania, and no one wants to stick together. Everybody was, I want to go play with this person. I want to go play with that person. So, yeah, I'm sure it's just a whole Rocket League theme right now. But yeah, to hear that the player base, like the third to lower, are getting better, that's exciting, because I think that's still everybody else's understanding from NA and EU is, oh, those regions, there's just one or two teams that are good, and that's it.
Yeah, and we absolutely have to change that. I think for me, when we get to a season, and maybe it'll get closer toward the end of the season as it develops, but one of the if you look for signs of success or signs that things are getting better, is going to be when there is no longer a shoe-in for who's going to win the regionals, where it's going to be one of two teams. You want it to be, well, I mean, you guys were talking about NA and this last weekend, there was chaos. Your 2-3-0 teams from Swiss didn't make it, didn't get into the finals or the semifinals. So that's a massive change. And North America, you have no idea. Everyone thinks it's going to be phase, then they think it's going to be G2, and now it's version 1. Oh yes, no, of course. Now it's always going to be version 1. No.
Yeah, it is.
So not that you're emotionally involved or anything.
No, not at all. I don't have a bias at all.
But yeah, so we want to see that sort of chaos where you're just not sure who the top dog is. That's a sign of depth and diversity within a region.
That's
especially
exciting.
if the top two teams that are there now continue to stay in the region, and other teams come up to their level and they continue to rise too, rather than those two teams leaving and then you have, or players leaving the region and having to do that. And that's a real possibility these days. It seems like, just like you said, even leaving the region for something other than Rocket League. So it's very interesting, because you even said this earlier, the lifespan of a Rocket League player sometimes isn't very long. So as you guys continue to grow, do you see these players sticking around, and are they trying to help out the region, help out their orgs, and help out themselves? What's kind of the consensus?
I think for the time being, it's pretty much an egocentric approach. If we look at those two top teams, the captains on either of them are 22 and 23 or 24 years old. So they're at the expiry date looming sort of phase, and I think for them it's, they grinded Rocket League for so long with no benefit, no return, no reward. It's like, okay, let's cash in as much as possible while we can. And they've probably got this season and maybe one more season and a season after that. So I think they want to go as far as they can. And you know what I have said to them is, the best thing you can do for this game in this region is get out of wildcard and get into the main event, because that will do more to put attention and there's going to be a, what the hell's this? How's this African team making main event? So if they can grind and put in the work that gets one of those two teams out of wildcard into the main event, that I think creates exponential benefit for us. Then we will absolutely get major spots. We'll absolutely get an official stream, and a little bit of love and attention from the rest of the world. So that's their responsibility. Play this game, get whatever you can out of it for yourself over the next 2 years. But damn it, get to the main event at Worlds.
Yeah, and the way to do that, in my opinion, is to elevate their own competition by giving them, not necessarily like, hey, this is the better way to play or whatever the case is, but continuously pushing their competition in their region up higher, so they rise up to the level. And that's really interesting point there. So What else, GreyBeard? I mean, what else is going on? You haven't really even talked about yourself and the commentating and all that. Now we're talking about the teams. Like, what's the most important thing for you to come out of this conversation? What do you want us to like keep talking about later?
I think it's. I said, I mean, this conversation was the result of a tweet a couple of weeks ago where I asked all, where are there Rocket League podcasts? Because I want to go and spread the gospel of sub-Saharan African Rocket League, and we have a habit, people who get interested in our region, we're very good at making people fall in love with us. If they start to come and check out the teams, watch the streams, and it's a region that's very easy to get invested in, and I think that's all I'm trying to accomplish. Is like, what, we're here, we're incredibly passionate people. We want to make a go of it. We're doing our damnedest to make a go of it. Come and check it out. Come and watch some of the streams, like one of the regionals. See, go on to RL Tracker or Liquipedia. Or just look into the teams. Who are the players? What are they about? And come and get a little emotionally invested. That's all. I just want people to talk about the region and its possibility and its potential, and maybe get others to do the same.
Beaver, I think it's just you, buddy.
What do you ask?
He asked if the audio is low, but it looks like it's blasting on my end.
There's a slider there you can use.
Yeah,
okay.
Not you. Beaver.
I mean, yeah, no, the region is super exciting. I hope more people do go and watch it and just see what SAA is all about, because it seems like the gameplay is getting, I don't want to say it's not there, but it does seem like it's top level gameplay.
Look, I mean, I mentioned the point earlier. It's probably just pace. If our guys could do what they're doing 20% faster, 15%, 10% faster, I think they start to become globally competitive. I mean, it's just, I watched a lot of the region. I didn't watch any of EU because it's at the same time as our regional, but I watched most of the North American regional over the weekend, and the pace of play it's actually mind-boggling at how quickly these guys play, and that's probably the biggest thing. So and certainly my conversations with the players when they came back from Worlds, that's probably the single biggest thing they say is just how quickly these guys play.
That's awesome. I think that.
Well, it's not going to be hard for people to get invested with guys like you coming out here with the enthusiasm and the excitement that you have for the game. Are there other people in your region, other commentators, other people making content that we should know about?
Yes, there are. Oh gosh, that would have been some good homework to have done and given that. But yeah, I think there's like 2 pros who are making content of like their own sort of gameplay and stuff. I do a podcast for the region on what's going on in Rocket League, and then there's a couple of players who've started a podcast specifically for RLCS in the region to talk, and which is wonderful. And they did their first one last week, and you hear the players talking about who's doing well, who's doing poorly, the surprises, what they think. That's I'm very excited about. And then, but not enough. And it is something I'm campaigning for, is we need more content. We've got people making sort of montage videos for the RLCS players, and it's in its infancy, I think, is worth saying.
That's a good place to be for people like you who care about it so much, but it's also a tough road. I mean, you're in a startup right now. You're trying to get your name out there, and you want to make sure that everyone is able to be lifted up in some manner. So hats off to you guys and to you and to what you're doing out there. I'm open. I mean, I don't have anything but time to talk with you. I know we're getting really late there, or early, however you're going to look at it, but anything you want to talk about with the region or what else?
What else? I think we've covered all the big points,
Yeah, pretty much.
the important things. I think it's just, you know, making connections, I think is really important in for a variety of reasons. So it's I'm just grateful and very, very pleased to have come and sit here and talk with you guys who clearly have a passion for the game as well. And also you're not you're men of a certain age, which is quite nice, and it's
That is
it
different
has,
in the scene.
yes, and I've been quite surprised by how many there are. I honestly thought I was kind of a lone ranger sort of 3 years ago, you know, grinding Rocket League, getting into toxic arguments with 14-year-olds. But but I've been very, you know, I had there's three of us that occasionally team up. There's a Scotsman who's 56, a guy in Florida who's 54, and then there's me. I think our combined age is like 157 or something stupid. And you know, so we'll get together and go and play. So it is awesome. But the point being, making those connections, they have mutual benefit in some. Who knows where it happens, but you know, you've just got to be continually on the treadmill, getting out there, meeting people, having conversations, and who knows what the possibilities that will come from that.
That's awesome. The way you described the three of you, a Scotsman, yourself, and a guy from the States, those comms have to be very interesting.
Yeah, no, well, listen, the problem with the Scotsman, they're a lot of fun when you
Yes.
understand them.
Yes. That's awesome. So someone who's hung out in your streams a couple of times, he's in here now, Tigers Vance. He was asking, 'cause he wasn't here at the beginning, what's the peak that you've hit for rank?
Well, the question then becomes my cheating rank. So for a bit of content, I got one of the players from Orlando Pirates before we were in RLCS. So it was about probably a year and a half ago. I said, you know what, I want to make Grand Champ. So he came and live on stream, he carried me to Grand Champ. So theoretically and technically Grand Champion, but by myself, Champ 3.
I mean, it still counts.
Though.
Yes, it's I'm at the point where it's horribly close.
You're not the only one who's been there like that. So.
What are you saying, Bucket?
No, I mean, like who are you trying to
call out?
I've grinded this game plenty in my time for various reasons and gotten to a higher level than that. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that everybody, it can only get as good as how much time they have to play that game like that, where you move to content creation and all these other things, those numbers start to dwindle anyway. So I think Champ 3 Grand Champ area is a really fun place to play the game.
It is.
Yeah, I just want to before my hands freeze up completely, I just want a Grand Champion title that I earned on my own.
Fair enough.
But, yeah.
One other question from chat. They're wondering, what's your favorite NA team?
Do you know what? It used to be NRG, just because when Squishy Muffins from all the, his content, watched a lot of his videos early on. And then of course, Justin from the epic season 8 finale, which was the best advert for competitive Rocket League there has ever been. So I really, really like those two players, and then become a big fan of Garrett G, just because, he's a seasoned veteran at 21 years old.
Yeah. And that's wild to think about. 21 and you're the seasoned vet.
Yeah, exactly. And like, oh man, he's old. But if I'm honest, I was a huge fan of Scrub Killer in Europe, and so I was very much behind Dignitas when he went there last season, and they had such a poor run. But watching them, became a fan of Appjack. So with his move to NA, I was definitely rooting for Genji over the weekend, and they came close. But so they're probably my favorite as it stands now.
They're winning hearts over here too, so that's kind of the same deal. If you show up and you show out, people in America and not North America in general will support you and will start to like you, or we're going to hate you enough to the point where you're going to get the most exposure. So it's never going to be wrong for you to just get better at the game. And that's what it sees for the SSA region too.
Yeah, and listen, and to be fair to Ab, I mean, he's one of the guys that has done a really good job of working, figuring out the content game around his. He's not content to just be a pro. He's building an empire, which is amazing to see, and I have a lot of respect for him. I don't know how much that distracts him from his game. I was worried about that last season. I was like, is he focusing so much on content that he's struggling with the game? But from the performance in this first regional, maybe not.
Yeah, no, he's doing really good things. Really excited to see what he comes up with for the bubble scene. I guess that would be a question. What is the bubble scene like out there in South Africa? Is it just as wild as it is in NA and EU?
I wouldn't even say that we have a bubble scene. I think
enough.
we have an RLCS scene, which is. I mean, if we think about, we get about 40 to 50 teams that sign up for a qualifier. So that gives you an idea of the scope of our player base right now. And of those 40 to 50, well, I guess technically everyone under 16th place is the bubble. So that's our bubble scene.
Right.
And there's constant bitching on Twitter about the bubble scene in North America, the bubble scene in EU, and there's not enough being done for them. There is pretty much nothing under RLCS here. And that's part of, look, to be fair though, since RLCS, we are starting to see more competitions that have a relatively decent prize pool. So that's also part of it. Other opportunities other than just RLCS. And those smaller competitions where the top teams aren't going to want to spend time to go and grind it, so that your quote unquote bubble teams can go and play and make $1,000 or $500 or $100 over a weekend.
Fair enough.
Just whatever they can get. Huh? That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, going back to yourself a little bit, like that's how this whole community came together, right? It was just a bunch of older folk, and we've got a lot of the parents. I saw a connection being made there in chat between Rizzo. His dad was part of the community before even I was, the dad gaming community, and his dad's in here and he's chatting over there with Etnies D's. It looks like, I'm not sure if I'm butchering that, but I think that's Ethan's dad, Dar's dad, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really cool. And anyone, the parents, people of any age over whatever, can come join these communities. Do you guys have that kind of scene too, or is it mainly just kids? I mean, you said you played the game by yourself only, so.
No, well, I think there is one of a very gratifying thing that happened during last season was a couple of older guys, and by older I mean they're sort of 30 plus. They started a local community and they've become incredibly strong, and they just wanted a place where people could go and have fun with the game, and they could connect up with other people to help them and team up and play, and they've been incredibly successful with that. So that's our and that is, well, it started off for working stiffs who want to play a bit of Rocket League after work, but it's grown quite a bit. And in fact, this season they've sort of gone pro and entered a pro team into the local SSA RLCS. So that's pretty cool. They put together a roster. And they're going. So there is that community, but again, we just need so much more of it. So our challenge is this, and where I want to go with Rocket League from here is at the very top. I want to make sure that our pros, the people at the top of the game in this region, have the best opportunities they have, and wherever I can help there. But then very importantly at the bottom. So I've actually gotten a few local brands interested in doing a project starting early next year to take Rocket League into schools, and just showcase the game in high schools, expose the game, because if we can start getting 13, 14, 15-year-olds into the game. That's our future. That's where our prodigies are going to come from. Our world beater Rocket League players are going to come from. So it's expose the game, get new players in. Once they're there, they need communities to become a part of. Rocket League is such an amazing game, but it can be quite lonely if you don't have a community. If you're just going into rank and getting smacked around, and it can get pretty toxic. So you want to build communities where people can feel safe and have fun and learn the game in a safe space, and then start sort of pushing them toward the competitive scene for those who go, okay, I want to become serious about the game. So I guess my focus is sort of at.
That's what I was afraid of. Hang on, everybody. My Discord just crashed. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, there we go.
For the next year for me, anyway.
Well, so I apologize about that. My Discord, I thought, was going to crash there for a second, but it recovered. No, that's exciting. If you're trying to bring it into schools to grow that player base, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids in the community that don't even know that this exists or that it's on that big of a world level right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, is there a game, and I know a lot of people talk about this, there isn't a game more that's easier to get into and to understand. Yes, I mean, it is hard. The game's frustratingly hard. We've all discovered that. But at its base, it is so easy to understand. And I don't play any other games. I struggle to understand other games. But if you take a game like Valorant or CSGO or PUBG, it's incredibly confusing. If you pop into a stream and it's like, okay, there's people shooting each other, but I don't know what's happening there. It's very hard to figure out. Rocket League, you like, after a couple of minutes, you go, okay, there's blue, there's orange, there's cars and a ball and a goal. And from a parental point of view, I mean, what's more friendlier? No one, the most violent thing in Rocket League, well, keep them away from chat. But outside of that, the most violent thing happening are demos. And Cars we've seen, he's a horrible, horrible example. I mean, he's a violent man.
I love the caveat in chat too. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, so show them the game, and it's a case of if you build it, they will come. That the old oh God, Kevin Costner, what's the Field of Dreams thing? Yeah, show them that it's there, and I think they will come in their droves.
Well, that's awesome.
Totally.
I think that's the perfect cherry on top. GreyBeard, we really appreciate you coming on here, especially because the timing for you is a monstrosity, but for sharing your insight with that with your region and everything that's going on. Bucket, before we go, do you have anything else?
Yeah, GreyBeard, one last time, shout out some of your places where we can find you. I know I found you, like you said, on your Twitter page. It's at GreyBeardGG. That's where I found you and your tweet to get onto podcasts. And I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And I'm going to reach out to you for some more things, some questions I still have about the coaches there and all kinds of things. And maybe we'll have you back after one of your regional majors or whatever the case is, main events.
Brilliant.
But go ahead and plug yourself.
You know what? The GreyBeard GG pretty much everywhere. GreyBeard GG on Twitch, on Twitter, and I think YouTube is still GreyBeard RL. But if you search GreyBeard and Rocket League, you'll find me. But Twitch and Twitter are good places to be. It's probably where I'm most active.
Well, that's awesome. We're glad to hear that. For everybody asking in chat, there you go. Bucket's dropping the links. We'll also have them in our Discord, so you can find GreyBeard and all of them there. But once again, GreyBeard, we appreciate you coming on here. We hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. But that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to wrap it up here and get ready for, I guess, EU this weekend. And you guys... So you guys are playing at the same time as EU, so you guys have your second regional coming up, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're like bang on the same time as Europe. It's wonderful. So no one comes to watch us.
Well, we're gonna try and do what we can to change that, and we'll make sure everybody knows where to go find you guys at.
Fantastic. Well, and thank you guys very much. This has been a blast. Despite the lateness of the hour, I could talk about Rocket League and the region all day, all night. So it was a wonderful pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, Bucket. Well, do you have anything else before we go tonight? I think my PC is on its last leg. I forgot to restart it before stream.
I wanted to continue to talk forever with GreyBeard, but it's getting late for you. It's getting late. It's early. I don't even know what for him. And after a while, I mean, you just start to think, man, how exciting that the times are to be on a floor like that. It's a brand that I love, is the startup world, things like that, where you get to wear many hats and play many roles. And I'm really excited for what they're going to do. And I'm going to certainly be following them a lot more closely. Instead of just seeing those RSS feeds come through our channel, I'm certainly going to be going and looking at the teams and what's going on. And that's just from a one hour conversation with someone. So it's really beautiful to connect with people all the way across the world.
Right? Like that's probably the craziest thing to think about right now, is that he's all the way over on the other side of the world, has the same passion, and can talk about just as much as we can. So we really appreciate him coming on and chatting. I was gonna say, you did message me who you got there. Oh yeah. He is doing well in him right now. He's doing a big long stream
Marathon.
Yeah, he's doing a marathon. So we will send everybody over to Mr. Blue Screen. If you guys have never checked him out before, he's a good one to watch. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to DVG for the raid. All the follows that have been coming in. Doc cheering with some bits. I think I even seen a sub here or there. But thank you, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. We're gonna get out of here before my PC crashes, and we'll catch you all later. Have a good one.